Hello, can you hear me okay? Perfect. Okay, I think we'll start. Welcome. Thank you very much for attending today's session. Very excited to be able to be here today. My name is Paul Farquharson. I kind of manage partnerships Unlimit. And today I want to be able to share with you a bit about my enthusiasm for expanding into high growth markets and also sharing some best practice and insights when it comes to doing business in those types of regions and what sort of kind of payment instruments that you need to be able to consider. So a bit about Unlimit for those who may not be aware of us. We're effectively a global fintech. We are a multi-product organization focused really about financial services infrastructure. So everything from card acquiring, like card processing. We're principal members of Visa, MasterCard, China Union Pay, Diners, Discover, etc. We're effectively globally headquartered in London. We've got about 600 staff. And we have got around about kind of 10 licenses globally that's able to allow us to operate with thousands of partners and merchants across LATAM, Sub-Saharan Africa, Europe, UK, India, and Southeast Asia are the main regions that we're effectively focused on. We've been going about 15 years, yeah. Today's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop journey around the world to places I want to go on holiday when I get some more money. But before we'll go into the regions, I just wanted to provide just some things for you to think about, and I think that's really the premise for today's presentation. It's really thoughts and best practice that kind of triggers. So, about 34% of UK online businesses sell international. So, I thought I'd try and make the session slightly more interactive. It could be a bit cringe, but I'm going to give it a go. There won't be any sort of kind of flash dancing required from the audience at this time, but if you could just kind of raise your hands if effectively your business is selling goods or services outside of the UK or Europe today. Okay, I'd say that's probably consistent with the stat, around about a third that we're seeing today. Obviously, from a mature market perspective in the UK and Europe, we've been flatlining in terms of growth, and so it is quite normal with high competition, a lot of cybersecurity challenges, data protection, regulatory hurdles, and high operation costs. It's quite normal to be able to look outside of those regions to expand. So 1 in 5 British e-commerce sites are missing out on global sales. So again, another kind of raise your hands moment, but hands up if you think your company could improve its international growth and expansion. Okay, so slightly, probably there or thereabouts 1 in 5. And I think the kind of key elements that we focused on is very much around new customer acquisition, new revenue streams, and diversifying your product and your business. So, let's touch on LATAM. So, from a LATAM perspective, what I'd like to be able to kind of touch on is these two markets in Brazil and Mexico are the kind of super tankers of LATAM in terms of e-commerce growth. As you can see there, they're going to be surpassing about $700 billion by 2027. That is a huge number. It's basically Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia, the 3 largest markets, making up at around about 60–70% of e-commerce in that region. Growing really probably at around about 22 to 36% year on year, which where you compare to the USA or UK or Europe, they're hovering between maybe 7 and 11%. So that gives you an indication around the opportunity that we see. So just kind of diving into Brazil specifically, the 7th largest population in the world. They've got, oh my goodness, 270 million people. And the way that they make payments is arranged. So about half the market is using cards. So it's Visa and MasterCard, but it's also local payment cards like ELO or HyperCard, basically a local credit and debit card. They also use a lot of e-wallets. PicPay is a good demonstration where they've got about 55 million users of an e-wallet, similar to, I guess, the kind of PayPals of this world. But the big shining superstar here is a payment method called Pix. And that's basically like an instant bank transfer and a bank-to-bank payment. Now, this is launched in, oh my goodness, 2020, and the growth has been unbelievable. It's got over 105 million users since it's launched. It covers 62% of the adult population, and effectively, if you want to be able to send and receive payments, PIX really is the payment method that's driving forward. And so that's why you'll see 27% being the kind of key data point here. But this number is shrinking, this is going up, but cards are really used for more of a higher purchase value, but also for installments as well. The kind of key trading days, which is also another opportunity about expansion, is the traditional ones like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day. So they really will buy a lot of presents for their loved ones at that particular time. In terms of the next market is Mexico. They've got even lower card penetration and usage. Now, basically, I think half of all Brazilians and half of all Mexicans are shopping internationally every year. So they are looking for new opportunities to be able to purchase high-quality goods and services, or pay for education from international businesses and institutions. And so the kind of payment methods that really are prominent are really the kind of, bank transfers, the e-wallets, and the cash vouchers, which is a mixture of SPAY and CODI, so it's a bank transfer that's used, but also OXXO, which is the main payment method for cash vouchers. So you go up to like a convenience store, like 7-Eleven or something like that. It's actually called OXXO. You would then put in, I don't know, X amount of Mexican pesos to be able to buy something, and then they would give you a voucher that you redeem and then be able to purchase online. Now that's being used predominantly because cash is still very much a kind of key driver for consumers going into or coming up from Mexico. The kind of key trading days are really the kind of hot sale, which is in May. We've also got El Bueno Fin, bad pronunciation, but basically it's a celebration in August time. And then you've got other things like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, and other events as well. But one thing about the Mexicans, they love to party, they love to buy stuff and love to celebrate. So anything that you're resounding those types of trading days is quite a good opportunity to be able to embed your brand in that type of culture. So the next big super tanker industry that a lot of our customers are really excited about is kind of India. So from India perspective, 1.4 billion people. I mean, it's difficult to even comprehend a number that big. 780 different languages and dialects across the region. Again, we've got Newcastle as a potential dialect, or Liverpool, or went to university. It's on another level in India. But one thing they love to do is, again, purchase internationally, and also people selling merchants in India selling internationally as well. So the key markets they love to do business with are the UK, US, Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, and I suppose Sub-Saharan Africa to some degree as well. They really are driving forward for expansion in those regions. They should be going to around about 259 billion by 2032. And again, the big kind of superstar in this region is a payment method called UPI. Again, this is another bank transfer capability that's used locally. It's both in-store but also online. And you can see that since this launched in, I think, 2019, it's already doing 10 billion transactions a month. And it's the kind of default payment method, and also the ability for you to be able to receive funds in India. So it's already 33% in those few short years. Cards are still definitely used. RuPay is a local a variant of that card, but again, it's high-value transactions that are being used. It's not day-to-day or expanding necessarily internationally. So again, having the right payment mix of cards, bank transfers, and e-wallets is definitely a good piece of advice. And then I think with the key trading days we'd recommend is Diwali, which is, I think, it's the Festival of Light. It's the biggest festival in India, and they are buying stuff for each other like they're going out of fashion. It's super crazy. And so it's, again, a great time to be able to take advantage of sales within that period of time, both internationally, given the reach of the amount of people that have emigrated from the country, but also sending to family and friends. So let me just check on how we're doing on time. So the next market is APAC. Now, again, I think there's 2.9 billion people across APAC today. 62% of all digital users are coming out of China alone, and China really is the big superpower in this region in many sense of the word. So we're looking at about 4 trillion in terms of e-commerce market this year, and that is projected to go to about 6.1 trillion and really is about the large market size, the e-commerce growth, and the diversity you've got around countries and populations and cultures in that region. It's unbelievable. With regards to, I guess, some of the key countries that we are working in and supporting partners, it's kind of China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore, Hong Kong, and South Korea. Obviously, you've got Japan and other markets which are really kind of very prevalent and fast growing, but I can't fit everything into one presentation today, so I'm just focusing on some of the key call-outs. But effectively, this world is dominated by e-wallets. So again, it's the super apps, as they call them. Think of kind of PayPal then times 100 in terms of what these people are doing with apps. So WeChat Pay is a social media platform, and that's also used for day-to-day transactions in store, but also online. And it's basically used by almost all of the population of China, but also surrounding countries. And then you've got Alipay, which has been around quite a while, but actually it's more of a financial services app. So people are using it for investments, ISAs, dealing with certain payments around government-based organizations, parking fines, all that sort of stuff. So it is really a utility, but it's also very much used for international transactions as well as kind of WeChat. So if you're going to go into those two markets, you've got to be going in with the e-wallets first. The other markets we also do a lot of work in with Malaysia. They've got e-wallets such as GrabPay and Boost. Again, a kind of similar digital wallet capability. And again, they're dominating market share in those regions of around about between 60 and 70% for Malaysia. And then you've got Indonesia as well that has got Dana and Doku. And again, Dana and Ovo. And again, these are kind of digital wallets that are being used not just by local Indonesians, but by very much around surrounding countries to be able to send monies to and from and also kind of make purchases. So the next slide, I'm just going to talk a bit about our case study, because it's always great to be able to link what we're saying to actually a partner that we've helped globally and expand. So InDrive, I don't know if you've used them, but they're the second most downloaded mobile app and taxi app globally. They've got 240 million downloads. They operate in 46 countries and 748 cities. So these guys are huge when it comes to mobile travel, and they do everything from logistics and freight as well as individual packages and picking up. The key difference is when you want to get a taxi with InDrive, you effectively negotiate the rate that you want to pay, not what Uber tells you that journey is, and then they change their mind halfway through when you're driving, and where you get to, it's something else because they've just taken a longer way. So you agree upfront before you get in the taxi what that price will pay. So that's quite an interesting dynamic, and another reason why it's been super hockey stick growth in the last kind of few years. So these guys effectively have been using our payment infrastructure. We started off in Mexico with kind of cards and local payment methods, and then we've expanded that into Colombia, Jamaica, Peru, and Chile. And we're actually in the process of expanding that out into other international markets, not just in Latin America, but also in Africa and India and beyond. So it's a partnership that we're very proud about, and that's just an example of where we've been able to offer the right payment mix to be able to deliver the value, not just for the customers who are going to use the app, but also the payout functionalities of the drivers who want to then get paid in local currency and on time quickly, because they don't want to do the job and then get paid 3 months later when their app provider determines they want to settle. So we have to make sure we manage the customer expectation to be able to deliver that seamless settlement experience. So, a rather weak summary, I thought, but hey, I'll kind of go with it. Effectively, who you partner with does matter in every shape and form. It's not just about the technology, and yes, we want to make sure we have the most modern, agile, modular technology that allows for fast speed to market. But actually, it's the people that embed around the technology that makes the difference. And with our 16 offices around the world and with people on the ground, we've got the ability to act globally, but then connect our local teams, and they can advise how you succeed in those markets, because you'll have to have considerations such as tax. They call it IVA or GST. These types of things are embedded in a transaction that, depending on your makeup, you have to have consideration of going into these and having a partner that's going to basically put a big hug around you to make sure that you're not going to be put in jail or even something even worse. So we believe in strong partnership matters. In terms of the markets, very much we are a big proponent for India, LATAM, APAC, and I haven't touched too much on Africa. Again, I didn't have kind of too much of a time, but it's a super growing region. Nigeria, Tanzania, and Kenya are the 3 markets we operate in today. And again, they're using a mix of local cards like Verve in Nigeria, but it's a lot bank transfer and e-wallet based. Same again with Kenya and Tanzania, it's more kind of mobile money. They hardly use cards. It's maybe just for tourism, maybe 10, 20, 18% is used on cards. The rest is M-Pesa and Airtel, which again is a mobile money. And a lot of these bank transfers and mobile money really allow the unbanked, people who don't have bank accounts, to be able to transact, which is very key and crucial when it comes to effectively diversifying your new customer acquisition. And then we just talked a bit about the customers and then the revenue, and then cards are not always the first option or only option. So again, think big, don't be afraid to experiment. Another thing that we also recommend is if you're too worried about maybe launching in, say, Brazil, there's huge Brazilian communities in this country and in Europe. And if you can target your product to the Brazilian communities locally, or Chinese communities, or Indian communities, that gives you that first step to understand how you can then engage with them, what sort of language considerations, and what sort of customer experience when it comes to checkout you're really looking at. And then you can then go into that other market depending on your risk appetite. So yeah, that really is the end of the presentation. How am I doing for time? That's okay. I've got like another 5 odd minutes for some questions. So yeah, thank you very much.